all of the words that he used, and I don't even think I'm really giving credence to what he said. It was impactful, you know what I mean? And then to listen to Alan Jackson cross-examine him the whole entire day just brought back, I mean, I don't know how he could have sat there and said, I still want my job back. But to each their own, I mean, yeah, so I can't wait to hear what Dennis has to say, too.
Over to you, Dennis.
Well, the unpacking the Proctor matter is a very, very important thing because it has a lot to do with the whole concept of policing, public trust, and everything else. So let's start with the basics. So Sir Robert Peel wrote the book on professional policing, and one of the most critical aspects or principles of professional policing is that you have to have public support in order to perform your job. In other words, the police are only as good as the people who are willing to trust them and to provide them with information to do their work. Now, I can see from I've watched this trial from the beginning, and as you just heard from Eileen, I would say that Eileen reflects a significant opinion in Massachusetts, particularly among younger women, about what Proctor said and how he conducted himself. That opinion and the behavior that he conveyed, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of most of our members on Maple, is that he undermined the confidence in the Massachusetts State Police among that sector of people, and among a wider sector as well. Anybody that understood the idea of bias or impartial, the value of impartial investigations, is now wondering how the state police conduct their investigations. So he was charged, and I did a little research on how he was charged. He was charged under Rule 5 of the Massachusetts State Police Rules and Regulations, as opposed to the policies and procedures. The rules are sort of the constitution of the Massachusetts State Police, whereas the rules are sort of the day-to-day statutes that, the policies and procedures are sort of the day-to-day statutes that officers use to be able to, meander through the daily situations. But the rules are where the heart of the department is. Rule 5 governs what's called rules of conduct, and it specifies under that rule a condition called unbecoming conduct, unsatisfactory performance, and fundamentally, any situation in which a trooper gets involved with that really conveys or discredits or casts aspersions on either the agency or himself runs contrary to that particular rule. And surely, I think it's pretty clear that, what they're arguing on the case now is whether or not, he had knowledge of whether or not his comments were going to go out onto the public. And also, whether, I think there was a minor charge of whether he was drinking on duty or something like that. But I think.
Can I ask one question? And I'm
Yep.
sorry to interrupt. So, I heard his lawyer's point of view, Proctor's lawyer, in terms of nothing happened in this until the Karen Reed trial was dismissed. So, if it was not dismissed, but found as a hung jury, is that a component of this? Too?
No, it goes. It's independent of the entire situation. It's the impact that Proctor's behavior had on the mission of the state police to perform its function. And what happens here is that his statements were so outlandish and so grotesque and so brutal in many ways that a strong portion of the population, as I said, the demographics, folks your age, things like that, and same thing, they have a serious concern now about whether or not the state police are operating impartially. How are they going to get treated if something happens and they get involved with if they get involved in an investigation or they need state police services? That is now in jeopardy, and by the fact that that particular segment of people could be alienated, it impacts the ability of the state police to conduct their job.
I had an experience that sort of reminds me of that. I was coming back from Arlington, Virginia. I'd been there for internment of a friend of mine, and it was like midnight, 12:30, 1 o'clock, and I was cruising along on 495, and it turned out I was behind a state trooper who all of a sudden did a whifferdale and got behind me, pulled me over, and gave me a ticket for following him. And I thought, I'll appeal just to see. So I think it was Acton where I went. They came in, they made sure they know who I was. They asked me for a quick summary. I gave it to them, and they said dismissed. And I said, and they said, it's dismissed. I mean, it was so quick that it made me think that they had an opinion of the state trooper himself formed before I even got to the table.
Well, that may be the case. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
prosecutors and the district attorney rely upon state police as well as all police for their case prosecutions. So they have a lot of experience with individuals and things like that. So it could be very well have been the case. But back to Eileen's position, which she was talking about, there was also some indication that he was not without. His claim is that he was taken advantage of. He was part of a witch hunt. That was the arguments that the lawyer was offering. But he was working for a district attorney's office as a chief investigator or a significant investigator. Prior to him going in there, he should have been trained on the responsibilities that entails. And one of them is, and he was briefed, and he did testify to it in his hearing, that, or there was testimony taken to it in the hearing, that he was briefed that all communications and all evidence that he had of an exculpatory nature, he had to provide to the defense. That's a foundational principle of anybody that's involved in prosecutions. So when he began to make these comments, he either didn't understand or ignored the fact that he was reflecting upon his own potential interpretation of bias. There was a significant lack of immaturity and professional skill. So he wound up. I personally don't think that Michael Proctor is an evil individual. I don't think he is. I think he's a person who tries to do the right thing. But I just think he had a question of maturity. And the other thing that is of significant concern is that he was operating in a climate that nobody called into question what he was doing. And I can tell you that I worked in state police investigations for a good, I would say a good 13 years, and I can tell you that had somebody been making remarks like that in an office, or at least joking about things like that, it would have behooved upon the unit commander to stop that immediately and to remind them that whatever they say and whatever they do could be brought out in court in defense of the prosecution. And that was not done, which I think is probably the most egregious situation in this, is that Proctor was put into a circumstance which he should have been educated to and directed better than he was, and it led into a major disaster. I mean, that case is a disaster. Let's face it.
Dennis, this is the first time ever I've seen anybody have to sacrifice their personal cell phone. If I send you a communication on my personal cell phone to your personal cell phone, it's your personal property, my personal property. If I have my company phone and I send it to your state police phone, it's now my company's communication, and it's now your state police communication. In this guy's case, he was using his private cell phone the whole time.
That distinction is not recognized in law. All right? If you, it's the same thing. If you were working for the Central Intelligence,
I keep my ear pretty close to the rail, and respectfully, what I do on my personal phone is not reflective of my.
well, let me ask you this question. Say you were working for the Central Intelligence Agency,
Yep.
and you were obtaining secure information, sensitive information about the nation's security, right? And you decided to enter that into your own private diary. You're authorized not, you're directed not to do that, and you enter it into your own private diary, and that private diary gets lost. Who's responsible for that?
I am.
Yes.
It's mine.
Same thing with Trooper Proctor.
What rule is that under the Mass State law that even your,
Little tighter on the microphone, kid.
Oh.
It's,
that even your personal cell phone communications are accessible to Mass State Police, your company that you work for, law enforcement?
it's not in the rules and regulations, but it's under mass criminal procedure. Okay, you are responsible for all evidence related to a particular case and the treatment of that evidence. So if you go engage in private conversations and you share sensitive information about a case with individuals, that information could become public and it could affect the case. So therefore, you're responsible for it. And that's what, I think that's what he is being called to task for.
I failed to do something when you sat down, and that is to mention that you're part of MAPLE, Massachusetts.
Association of Professional Law Enforcement.
Yeah, there we go. I got lost on the A. So this is a group of people trying to increase the professionalism of police activities in the state, right?
That's correct.
So
And I did spend almost 30 years in the Massachusetts State Police as well.
okey doke. So, how did it come out? Did they render a decision yesterday afternoon on Michael Proctor?
No.
No, it goes on to next week.
No, it goes on till October. The defense, so Proctor's the defense, right? So the defense isn't going to have a chance until October, is that right?
Well, he's going to put on his defense in October, yes. The state police put their case on a few days ago, and, I mean, the only witness they have is Detective Lieutenant Dwyer, who investigated the matter, and he provided the information, and so he'll provide a response in October.
And was Dwyer the one that was also on the stand the majority of the
Yes,
day?
yeah.
Okay. And I felt bad for him because everything he did was scrutinized by that lawyer. And it sounds like he was just trying to have the right checks and balances in the investigation.
Well, he's used to that. That's part of your business.
Okay. And Karen Reed is free, and we have no idea who killed her boyfriend.
That's the status of that matter right now, that's for sure.
It's like OJ.
A little bit different, but
They're never going to find him. Nobody's going to look. We're done looking, and that's it. You think they're done looking?
don't know. I don't know.
Think. You got a professional career, I got a professional career. What do you think?
I don't know. It's as simple as
I know
that.
you don't know, but based on your past history, Dennis,
I have seen situations that you think are not going to be followed up that do. So I'm keeping my mind open on it.
good. Understood. Thank you, Dennis.
So, did Maple come out with an official opinion on this Michael Proctor thing?
Yes, we did. We made a public statement that we supported Colonel Noble's decision. Our commentary was that, given the circumstances that I just described to you about the impact that his comments had on the population and the confidence of the Massachusetts State Police, Colonel Noble had no choice but to do what he did.
Yeah. So,
Dennis, you got any feelings on the kiddo that died in the boxing match?
The concern we have with that is that we haven't heard the results. This has been a significant period of time has elapsed now between that incident, and we've not heard the results of the investigation, which is a disturbing thing.
Why is it on TV this week? I thought something was released to prompt the television stations to get back on it.
I'm not aware of anything yet. If you have something, please, I'd like to know about it, but I have not heard anything. I know that when Colonel Noble was interviewed probably about a week or 2 weeks ago
Yeah.
by by Fox 25, an extended interview, and he basically said that he had not received information on that yet, and he said that as soon as there was information, he would release it.
Right. From what I've heard from my Karen Reed investigative skills, is that Turtle Boy Aiden Carney has reported that some people actually have the video, but that Enrique Delgado Garcia had a brain aneurysm that nobody really knew about, but was also exhibiting signs of it, so he should never have been in that boxing match at the same time. That's Eileen Delrossi reporting.
Some of the audience says, I feel for Trooper Proctor. I think I don't know Proctor, but I think the guy's learned his lesson. I think a lot of state police have learned their lesson. And I think up until this, everybody thought, including myself, until Dennis proved me wrong this morning, what I do personal on my personal cell phone is my business and can't be pulled into court. Learned something new today, and I think a lot of state police learned something new too.
Yeah, well, I mean, what people are, I understand the the concern and issues about Trooper Proctor. As I said, I don't think Trooper Proctor is a bad fellow, but this is a hard reality that he ran into, and that is that when there's a compromise or there's a question about the integrity of the state police above us, it's just something goes above you. It's the same thing as, if you've been in the service, you understand this idea. There's a responsibility that rises above your own personal situation, and if you, through an error, or even if you do it through deliberate, you violate or tend to erode the trust and confidence that the public has in the agency. Your concern is secondary.
Dennis, a lot of the Massachusetts have fallen down on their duty with state boards, state police, the medical examiner's office. A lot of them, they just don't look to put excellence out the door anymore. Because nobody gets fired, no matter how bad you screw up. This poor guy that got fired from the state police is probably the first guy in this century that got fired.
No, there's been others fired, but I think this is the first time that I can remember. There's been several officers fired, but
Because, I mean, when I look at my state boards, I have undertakers that have funeral homes operating where the guy operating the funeral home doesn't have a license. And Massachusetts just lets it go on. And for my doctor friends, they say they're thinking of getting out of Massachusetts. That's how bad the Massachusetts Medical Board is.
well, you're talking to a larger issue now, and that's the administration of the Commonwealth
It's just
by
everything's
the
okay.
by
It's a
the by the
joke.
regime in charge, and those are legitimate concerns that you have to raise.
It's a joke, and you gotta wonder, okay, how's the airport? Really? They got this new Acela train to go 150 miles an hour. Where? Not in Massachusetts.
So-
Accountability is an issue in Massachusetts. There's no question about it.
And when do you think we'll ever see it?
It's up to the people of Massachusetts. When do they decide they want to put up with this, or when they don't?
Oh, I'm gonna put Banner right back in there. Banner, love you.
So Dennis, we reached outside of the Commonwealth to get the new commander of the state police, reached down to New Jersey. Are they the ones that wear the riding breeches, or is that Pennsylvania?
No, the running breeches are a typical, they're common among several state police
Yeah.
operations.
So-
But their uniform is very similar to ours.
How has that worked out, reaching out and bringing someone in from a different part of the country?
Well, we supported the idea. We had made a recommendation to the governor's office a while ago that
Maple supported.
Maple did. Maple made the recommendation to the governor's office a long time ago that we were in favor of the idea of opening up the top rank to out-of-state candidates. And we think it's important because it's like anything else. If you have a situation where everybody's together, you're all picking from the same group all the time, there can be incestuous relationships. There can also be, and this is the other thing that happens, is there can be factions. All right, so one faction gets the leadership, and then they take action against the opposing faction, and you have division. So what's good is that this individual came in without any connection to Massachusetts at all, and he has an opportunity to, providing he gets the proper support from the governor's office, to be able to make some significant changes that need to be done to this agency.
That's good. Taking a wider look at law enforcement, the president has put the National Guard into D.C., and the impression I have is that the citizens, especially in the eastern part of D.C., are happy about it. Do you have any thoughts about this?
Yes, I can say a few things about that. What you see in D.C. Is essentially a failure. I think there's a failure by the local or the municipal police authority to be able to sustain confidence and promote a sense of safety within the community. And I think the Trump administration, which can exert control directly over the District of Columbia, perceived that there was a lack of confidence and some fear and trepidation, and has taken some immediate action to try to restore that. And to some extent, that's happened. But here's the thing that's important to remember, is that an infusion of police officers or even the military into a crime-ridden area will get you only so far. What has to happen is a more deeper dive, more significant changes to the way that business is conducted has to be done in order to sustain this. Because eventually what happens is if you have even uniformed officers on there for a while and you're making the arrests, if the courts don't back up the arrests, if the individuals are let out again, if there's a sense that this is only a token, then the criminal element will take advantage of that as well, and they'll conduct crimes right in front of the uniformed personnel.
I've seen some terrible YouTube episodes where they just stand there in front of two Masters of State police cruisers, telling the troopers that he's enjoying sex with their wives. I just can't believe how people will act in public, and I'm told the police just have to tolerate this behavior.
No, you don't have to.
Just want to read this from Jeannie Balkus about Trooper Proctor. I feel Trooper Proctor should get his job back because he was just very emotional about the death of a fellow officer and just. Thank you, Jeannie Balkus. Back over to you, Dennis.
It's her opinion. I mean, that she's entitled to her opinion. I think I gave you the explanation as to why, the opposite explanation.
Yep.
Oh, I have a question. All right, so.
Eileen, I need you to run the mic tighter.
One thing I heard was that he had self-reported himself at one point. Do you remember when he self-reported himself?
Yes, he learned about the disclosures from his personal cell phone in a federal grand jury. And as soon as he was aware of that, he went and disclosed it to his supervisor, which he was supposed to do, and he was in accordance with rules and regulations. And
Do you think he should have disclosed it before it got to the federal grand jury?
I don't think, he shouldn't have done it. That was the first thing.
Right.
So, whether he was aware of the fact that that was a problem is a concern, because if he wasn't aware that that was a problem, that means he wasn't trained and oriented properly.
Right.
Now, that is the one issue that he may be able to make a claim on if he can come back and say that, this was a common practice. The state police did not create an environment which that I became aware, that he became aware of was improper conduct. If that could provide some sort of, a mitigation for him to an extent, but I mean, the damage was done. I mean, the damage was significant.
Yeah.
Oh, you have to ask yourself the question. Let me ask you a question. How would you feel if he gets reinstated?
Not good. I mean, obviously, a lot of Massachusetts, I mean, I drive my child to school in Newton, and every time I see a state police officer vehicle, I get a little chill. My whole entire perception of police have shifted since this situation. It leaves me in a very untrusting way, especially being a woman.
So did you hear that, John? What's the percentage of the female population in Massachusetts?
Sorry, we got to go to break, Dennis. Come right back.
Get another cup.
Thanks.
Do you want a cup?
Welcome to City Life Show. I'm Cliff Krieger, your host. My co-host is Eileen Delrossi, and our guest right now is Dennis Galvin, retired from the state police and a member of Maple, Massachusetts
Association
of-
for Professional Law Enforcement.
And we've been talking a little bit about Michael Proctor and larger issues with regard to police. And we touched on President Trump sending the National Guard into the District of Columbia to help the police in D.C. make it a safer city. I have to admit that I don't think of D.C., at least certain parts of D.C. as particularly safe areas that I'd be careful going through. But one of the questions I have is, although President Trump has talked about expanding this effort to Chicago or Charm City there in Baltimore, maybe Boston, I'm not sure he can get away with that. Do you have an opinion on that, Dennis?
Well, what he can't take as direct a role as he did in Washington, D.C. However, he certainly can step up federal law enforcement in Chicago, New York. He's doing it in Massachusetts, in Boston, and I mean the federal government has significant resources between the agencies they can apply here. It's not just the FBI. There's the U.S. Marshals. There's ICE, as we all aware of ICE. There's the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. There's the Bureau of Drug Enforcement, the Drug Enforcement Administration. I mean, there's significant resources that he can bring into any community that he wants to, that can bring a significant reduction in criminal activity. However, the thing that he can't do anything about, unless he's asked by a governor, is he cannot restore order. And there's two missions the police have. One of them is crime prevention. That's obviously everybody understands that one. But the other one is that they're supposed to restore order. In other words, where there's a situation where you feel you can't go, you're beset by rowdy individuals who congregate in front of a train station or a bus stop or someplace like that. That's a responsibility of the local municipal police department to make sure that you feel comfortable walking and going where you're supposed to go. That's their responsibility. And in many municipalities across this country, they have abandoned that responsibility. Now, a lot of it is not their fault, and Seattle is a very good example of that. The problem is that civilian administrators, particularly local municipal judges, won't support the effort to maintain order. They take extreme positions with regard to persons' rights of free speech, to the point where expressions like, for example, panhandling, right? Panhandling is a protected right, so someone can come up and ask you for money anywhere, and you can't stop that. Now, there's been efforts made to try to define what that responsibility is and what the parameters are, and they can't harass you, they can't follow you down the street, but they can't stop you from asking you for money. So some people are put off by that, but there's a balance that has to be achieved. But it's police responsibility to find that balance and to make sure that everybody has access to the streets and can pass back and forth without fear of being accosted or robbed or anything else.
Yeah, I can see in Washington, D.C., there's 4 corners in Washington. The White House is in Southwest. I feel fairly comfortable in Southwest D.C. Northwest is where all the highfalutin people live, embassies, all that kind of stuff. So you don't expect much crime there. Northeast is a little more sketchy, but I've never had any concerns driving on the streets of Northeast. Southeast in my mind is crime-ridden, and I don't like driving at street level in Southeast D.C.
It's like Southside Chicago is the same way. Those are critical challenges for the municipal police department. And in some respects, as I said before, police cannot do the job alone. They have to be supported by the public. That's number one. So it means they have to be able to develop a rapport with the public, which we just saw the dangers that could occur in a situation like, Proctor, which was basically an impropriety, right? It wasn't wrongdoing. It was just he just acted improperly. But you can see the effect that had. And then the other thing is that the judges have to support the effort. If the judges take a position or the prosecutors take a position, they take the Soros position where there's no such thing as crime, or there's no such thing. They're not going to support police actions for shoplifting, disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, creating nuisances. Then the police are basically useless. They can't achieve anything. So this is all part of a larger struggle, and I think you're aware that we're in a real conflict in this nation today about the whole essence of order and right and wrong and everything else, and this is just a local manifestation of it as far as I'm concerned.
Wow.
It's interesting because, we talk about the difficulties in education, and then it all comes back to this, right? The
Oh, yeah, big
almighty
deal.
phone that goes out to so many in text, and everyone thinks that they can multitask and do things, but,
They can't.
do more than one thing at a time. There's a good Buddhist monk saying, when you're walking, you walk. When you are on the phone, you're on the phone. When you're eating, you're eating. And, when you're driving, you're driving.
Yep.
But I don't think anybody actually does that anymore. Everyone's mind is so used to going 100 miles an hour and wanting to solve all the problems as quick as possible and get all the information out to their people as quick as possible. And it's become a problem.
I think you're right. I think you're onto something. I personally think you're onto something. I think that there's a big lie has been perpetrated in this society probably since the Vietnam War. I think you may agree with me. And that lie is that there are no rules. You make your own rules, and the universe is nothing but chaos anyway. So you might as well just do what you want. And I think what we're all finding out now is that there is a such thing as a natural law, a natural compass. There's certain ways that you have to act. You shouldn't treat people cruelly. You should treat people with respect. And I think people are going to have to come back and try to reemphasize this. And it hasn't been done. It hasn't been done anywhere. I don't think it's even the schools have stepped back. There was a time when you would get moral clarity from going to school. Even a public school, you knew what was right and wrong when you left. And this ethical base is kind of eroded. And I think all the things we're seeing now are results of it. I mean, this unfortunate shooting in Minneapolis where at the parochial school where the 2 children were killed, another perfect example. The individual that was involved had no prior criminal record, just was hate-filled, and decided to take spontaneous action. Well, and felt justified in doing so. And I think we have to ask ourselves a question: what kind of a society are we creating? What kind of values are we imparting on people? And we have to tone the rhetoric down.
And, sometimes I will often link like these video games that these kids are playing, like Call of Duty, where they're killing people. And in the video game, it's no big deal, but then they take it to real life and actually do it. And I don't think that is conducive for our kids because they don't realize the ramification of all the pain that it causes and all the devastation that it leaves.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, their images on a screen. There's no emotional content. I think you can ask. I think Cliff will tell you that combat is not a video game, and it's something that the context of what goes on in that game is lost by a lot of people. And you're right, it can create a distorted virtual reality that people operate under, and that's what parents, that's what schools, that's what counselors should be reiterating, is that this is not the reality. This is amusement for the side, but I mean we all have it. I have grandchildren, and they've got they are desperately trying to get their nose into the phone all the time. So it's a challenge for parents. So I think one of my sons has several children, and he's been able to be successful at it. He's learned how to control the access to thing, and he's masterful at it.
That's
to the point where they have to come and bargain with him to get time when they. I said, I think he's mastered the issue of this. So.
But that's, it should be like a reward, and it
Yes.
should be something that they realize is not a need, it's a want. And what are you going to do to get what you want?
That's right.
Right? And I like that. I love that. If you could get that list for me of how he negotiates, I'd really appreciate it.
I'll see what I can do for you.
So, I've heard people complain that, especially after there was the raid on John Bolton's house, National Security Advisor during the first Trump administration, that Trump is Yeah, Eileen, you slide over just a little bit, and,
Oh, no, yep, I'll stay on the inside.
no, Rodney, come on in.
We have a strict order of operations here.
Hey, Rodney, how are you?
Good morning.
How you doing?
Good morning. Morning, Chris.
Morning.
So look, your chairs are gonna be touching, so Rodney, slide, so you can get this chair, and I gotta get all this tied up. Give it a shot. Proceed for it next.
Well, I have to admit that when I was putting together my notes for today, that for a minute I had you as a city councilor, and then I remembered, no, you've done that.
Well,
the mayor,
it was 24
but-
years, so it's hard to change minds, I guess.
But,
And I have to say, I started reading your notes this morning, Cliff, and they were
Intense,
extensive.
intense.
Like, I was gonna say, I didn't know how many pages, but I didn't get them through them all, but you're prepared.
Usually 14 to 28.
so Rodney, you've got 16th Middlesex,
Correct.
the top of Lowell, and the top of
That means
Chelmsford?
nothing to folks, and I know reps use it all the time, that I represent the 16th Middlesex or the 7th Hamden and Plymouth County. It's parts of Lowell and North Chelmsford, correct. I have Pawtucketville, Centerville, North Chelmsford, all the way to, they call it the Westlands, which is, I can only identify it by where the old Route 3 cinema was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, before my time.
Oh, Wall Street Cinema, I remember.
I never realized how close, the North Chelmsford area is to Westford either.
Yeah, you're
Because I
right.
was out there door dashing the other day and I was like, you go right, when you come off the exit, it's Westford, you go left and it's North Chelmsford.
Yeah, right, yeah, it abuts, and it abuts Tingsboro, so you're right. It's an interesting district. It's a interesting configuration, but that's what it is.
So, are you on a committee?
Am I on committee? I'm on 4 committees. I think typically, members of the House of Representatives are assigned to 4 committees, unless you're a chair. If you're a chair, and I could stand to be corrected, but I think that's your sole responsibility. There's 160 reps,
Yep.
so.
How many, what are your committees?
My committees are, I'm a member of the Committee on Ways and Means. I'm also on Committee on Public Service, Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security, and Committee on Economic Development and Technologies.
Oh. So, what I hadn't realized until you have your own page in Wikipedia. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
You've made it. Now you know you've made
You
it.
can't edit your own page, by the way. If you make any edits, then, like, people from, I'm going to call it the dark web, go in and they edit it out, and they I'm not a fan of Wikipedia. There's no substance to it, and anybody can do whatever they want to the page. And again, these editors from who knows where they are control Wikipedia. And I don't think it's all factual information, but it does come up.
Yep. So, I saw you went to Catholic University.
I did go to Catholic University, yes.
So, did
yes.
you live up in Northeast?
I did live in Northeast. I lived with Marty Meehan
Oh,
after he got elected. So I went, I left the town of Groton and I went to work for the Environmental Protection Agency in Washington and in the Office of the Comptroller, and I went back to graduate school. I actually did classwork at American University, then I decided to go to Catholic. I got a second master's. I was actually in a PhD program, but I did all my classwork and I had to do my dissertation, and I decided to come home. So
the other thing I know is
it's beautiful.
I used to, when I was worked in D.C., I'd go to the shrine at noon to get shriven.
Oh, you did?
And
To get what?
shriven?
That's a new word. We'll learn it.
That's a Cliff vocabulary word.
John, are you aware of that word?
Cliff's next statement, he'll say, "You don't know what shriven is?"
I don't know what shriven is, so just tell me.
I don't think, Rodney, we could go out front with the microphone right now, stop all the cars getting off the connector, ask them, what is shriven? And they wouldn't know. So Cliff, please tell the audience, What's shrivelous?
Because you did make a statement to say, you wanted to make a statement saying that
Dennis, do
you
you know what
went to
shrivelous
the
is?
shrine to
No
get
idea.
shriven, so.
Yeah, to confess my sins.
Okay, well, all right. That's a good word.
Yeah. So,
What'd you get your master's degree in?
I got my master's in political science.
Because my next question was going to be, actually, how'd you end up in Lowell politics? So that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good question. My father was an Acre kid. Went to St. Patrick's School, Lowell High, and he introduced me at a young age to politics. He used to work on various people's campaigns, and I guess he would be my influence.
Nice.
yeah. So, as a rep, what's your vision for Lowell?
Cliff Sassy's very broad.
Deep.
Look, I think it's multifold, right? There's no easy and quick or short answer to that, quite frankly. If you ask me what my job is, which I think might be a little bit more
Well,
relevant.
that's coming next when I asked about taxes.
Yeah, so like all reps down there, you want to go down there and you want to fight for your district. You fight for your district, whether it's for home rule petitions to pass that directly will have an influence on your community. Those home rules that your community asks you to file. I think the second element to that is, you go and fight for money for your district. You go down and you fight for projects, you write letters, you advocate for social service programs and funding. Things like, there are programs operated by various social service agencies in the city that directly affect the residents, and we've advocated through communications, conversations, meetings with the administration, with the governor, and I think that's the biggest role. I think that's what I bring to my job, and advocating for your city and various, and you got to know your city. I think, having served for 24 years, I certainly do know. I spend an awful lot of time in North Chelmsford at zoning board of appeal meetings and Vinyl Square, and I know I'm probably going off a little bit, but I've been very active for the last 3 years and gotten to know an awful lot of people and the issues affecting my district in North Chelmsford.
So Rodney, it's a strong indicator you're going to run for re-election?
I'm going to run for re-election. I like it.
Something we talk about often on this show is financial literacy, and I know you've worked pretty intricately with the rep from Methuen, right?
Yeah.
To create a financial literacy program, and you spoke on it at the school committee.
I did, and I know you filed that motion. I think that is important, continues to be important. Sometimes, that is a piece of legislation that I think I would say it's kind of a no-brainer.
It's imperative.
I think when you brought it up on the school committee floor and I signed on to a bill with Rep. Hamilton, and there was good momentum at the time, and I don't understand why something like that, even when I was the mayor, and that was a while ago, we used to, there was a program where the local banks would go into the schools and, kind of teach the kids, I think it was the elementary schools, maybe the middle schools as well, to open up a simple savings account. Start there and start with that conversation. But if you look at kids graduating from high school or even college, they're getting into such debt for a variety of reasons, and I think it's important to teach financial literacy at an early age.
Bravo.
Yeah.
I think personal finance should be taught in every grade in high school.
Yeah, I mean, some of us, including myself, when you make money when you're younger, you don't have any clue. And quite frankly, I don't think you learn to be as independent until you're on your own. And at that point, you've developed habits or a lifestyle, and it could be a little bit too late. You got to live within your means, and across all boards. So I hope that bill passes this session. We have new rules. I'm probably going to try to jump in and short-circuit some of those questions, Cliff, but, this legislative session,
Yeah.
the House has adopted new rules, and people say, okay, rules, what's the big deal?
Critical.
But, yeah, it's critical, and it's our guidebook to how to operate and the House of Representatives, and we've changed it in a number of ways. All the committee votes are now public, so we're, becoming more transparent. I always advocated that. You're going to take a vote in committee, make it public. Of course, all the roll call votes are public. Bills have to be reported out in 60 days. In the past, the deadline was the second year, it's a 2-year term, was the second year that February. So you could conceivably have a hearing on a bill, an important bill, 14, 16 months prior, and there's no real requirement. Now there's a requirement to get them out, unless there is an extension, and we have seen some extensions on some complicated pieces of legislation. But long story short, bills should be moving out. If it goes to study, if it's, reported ought not to pass, okay, but at least where your bills are. And I think those are a couple of important moves that, will facilitate the process.
Rodney, is there any talk down the State House about electronic ticketing? I ask you this every time you come.
You do.
And the doggone city council is talking about, well, they're driving too fast in the city. When you see those little signs that say your speed is 55 and the speed limit's 25, I think you should get an electronic ticket in the mail. What's the process of creating a law, and would you consider trying to create a law to make electronic ticketing happen? Because the police just don't have the time to do it.
I do believe that there needs to be more enforcement. I mean, quite frankly, in Massachusetts, and I shouldn't just say Massachusetts, drivers see a yellow and they just put their foot on the gas.
Speed it up.
Yellow is supposed to mean caution, essentially stop, not caution. A red light's coming, not I can beat it. And I see more cars more often than just blowing through
true.
the yellow, and sometimes even just red, because there's they know there's no consequence, right?
Since the last time you were
to
here,
answer your question, you did ask me that, and I did commit to look into it there. I don't know why there's hesitancy, perhaps with.
Maryland's doing it right now. When I had a burial, I had to go do down, and I had to drive through Maryland, and it comes up on the Waze, speed camera ahead.
Right.
And everybody slowed right down. to
Yeah,
that
I mean,
speed camera.
there's a good deterrent, right? I mean, everybody uses Waze,
there
everybody
was
has a radar detector.
And there was
Slow
the
down.
state police cruiser with all these cameras on his front bumper facing the traffic.
It seems to me everybody is in such a hurry these days, whether it's going through intersections or, road rage, and
Distracted driving.
I just don't understand, but I know that was discussed at some
Well,
point.
I'll keep hitting on you until you finally do promote a
If I
bill
could
for
kindly
electronic
ask you to
ticketing.
send me an email, John, so I won't forget, I'll make myself a note to look into that. But I have not, as a member of the Committee on Public Service, which would deal with that, or it could be Transportation, which would be Jimmy Osiro.
See, the first three electronic tickets I get every year are not attached to my insurance. I just get a fine. The fourth one, you can tell my
I
insurance.
mean, there are some negative, is,
You shouldn't tattle to my insurance company right away.
right. As of now, there is no movement for that, as far as I know.
Well, I'm going to ask you to try to move that rock.
Okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I think it would at least help to slow people down around here a little bit and make them more cautious.
On the mic, kiddo.
I agree with you on slowing down. I know before I left the council, I believe the ordinance to have, the Municipal Modernization Act passed, and the city decided to adopt a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, right? And I don't know how effective it is. I know that the police department have written a slew of tickets, which is good. I see more often than not traveling around quite a bit speed bumps. Speed bumps on side roads, on cut-throughs. I know there was a very effective speed bump on a road in our district, Centerville.
Why do you need speed bumps? Because you've got all the potholes there.
That's right.
Because-
That's right.
I gotta say this.
Fairmount,
No, I-
Fairmount, there's all those potholes. Why did they need to put 2 speed humps on that?
Well, that's why it's disproportionate,
That's
because
funny.
you got all the speed bump, like the potholes in one area, then you get mad and angry, and then you get a nice paved road, and then you don't know how fast you're going because you're always hitting a speed bump or a pothole, I should say. But yeah, we had that speed bump on Barker. No,
Billings?
Billings.
Yep, Billings.
Yeah, but it was only a trial period.
Right.
Right? And I've heard a lot of people asking for that back, and even one like adjacent on Boynton Street, because a lot of people speed down that street and there are a lot of kids there.
Yeah, I mean, there's people just cutting through the city or cutting through neighborhoods, and that's exactly what we don't want. That's why these roads aren't built to handle, major traffic flow. So
I'm glad you
I,
brought that up, because I think that it's great that we're rebuilding the Rourke Bridge as 4 lanes. And I am very happy about that. But what we need in addition is the Marie Sweeney Bridge across the Merrimack down in the area of Lindsay's, running all the way down to 495, which would relieve a lot of traffic on Andover Street 133.
There's no room on that 110. It's a
There's-
one-lane road.
well, you can propose, that rep can propose that, I guess it would be Draken and Belvedere after the Rourke Bridge.
Dennis, you got any feedback on electronic ticketing? What are your thoughts on electronic ticketing?
I know that's it's developing a lot of popularity. I'm more traditional. I think an officer should be enforcing the speed situation. I think it's important. There's a lot of room for error on electronics. In other words, questions about identity, who gets the ticket. I think when a police officer makes a stop, gets the license and registration, he confirms the fact that she confirms the fact that they're registered and they're licensed.
Yeah, but Dennis, 2025, 2026, coming down from Cow Hampshire yesterday, I drove by a New Hampshire state trooper doing 75 with all the traffic. And then just once we get into Tingsboro, drove right by a masked trooper, we're all doing 75. And the speed limit's 55. And he's just,
Excuse me, why is the speed limit 55?
Are you sure the speed limit's 55? I don't think it is on Route 3.
okay, Dennis, we were all doing 75. What's the
Yeah, I
speed?
mean, the speed limit, I think it's 60, 65. So it's always been a practice, as long as I can remember, that you never strictly enforce the law. You give it about 5 to 10 miles over the limit. It's just,
He wasn't stopping us all. We're all doing 75.
well, the other times, if the traffic's busy, you don't want him stopping anybody because he's going to get himself hurt or somebody else.
Then why is he even there?
Primarily to make sure that if there's a bottleneck, somebody gets into an
Dennis,
accident, you
I'm lucky
respond
enough
to
to
it.
drive all over the state all week long, and yesteryear, when you were giving out speeding tickets, everybody did 65. You did not do 66. Those days are gone.
Well, that was when the speed limit was 55, plus there was a significant amount of state resources supported by the federal government to enforce that 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. That money's all gone now. And I think there's been a succession of governors, particularly Weldon Cellucci, who made it very clear they didn't want to enforce those speed laws.
That's too bad.
Yeah?
Well, nobody's getting killed. That's what the feedback I get from Suncop. Until some people start getting killed, nothing's going to happen.
I don't know about that. I don't think I'd buy into that.
Well, that's what
That theory.
that's what some of your colleagues have put into my ear. We're just chit-chatting at the donut store.
We're used to about 400, I think we're used to about 400 fatal deaths each year in Massachusetts. I don't think that number's changed too much. So, as a matter of fact, I think I think the overdose death rate is worse, but I think it's somewhere around 400 or 500 people killed a year on the highways in Massachusetts.
Sad. Rodney, sliding over to the Lowell Housing. You're on the whole Lowell Housing Board.
Yes, I am.
Are you guys talking about Dennis Prestopino's videos? Have you had a meeting since, Dennis? No, I'm sorry, David
Prestopino.
David Prestopino. Sorry, I misspoke his name.
Yeah.
Have you guys talked about that at all, or you haven't had a meeting yet?
We had a we have had a meeting, I think July, we did not have a meeting. We have had meetings since then. We've
What are your
had
thoughts?
meetings
What
before
are your thoughts?
then. The Bishop Markham is, I've been before the city council months ago, talking about Bishop Markham. It's a constant battle, with the homeless and, people that have essentially,
Take it over the hallway.
Dropped out.
how do we're sympathetic, we understand, but we've put more resources over there, and we'll continue to do that. Particularly our custodial staff has increased from 7 to 10. When I went to the council meeting, it was quite a few months ago when essentially it was right around the camping ordinance, when that no camping ordinance was put in. The homeless people were looking for a place to go. And what happens are two things. Let's get right to the heart of the matter. They're breaking into these housing complexes, and residents living there are letting the homeless people in, and they're going into their apartments. In large part, there are, and by the way, last weekend I saw some of the video, and I've spent Friday afternoon over at Bishop Markham last Friday. I spent last Sunday morning from, I think it was 8 to 1, walking around the complex, because Friday night we had a report that somebody ripped out all of the hardware from the, we have cameras everywhere, by the way.
Can I just ask one quick question
Sure.
as you're going on with this? So when Dave Prestopino went and spoke in front of the the city council, the city manager reported that they have between 32 and 36 employees that have been dedicated to that area, between police and so forth. So have you seen, or do you work in conjunction at all with the city with that?
I don't know how many resources. There's one individual that is assigned that we pay for, the Lowell Housing Authority. But I guess that's a good point. I won't get into all of the details, because we in conjunction with the city of Lowell, we established a police precinct there. Right there's big letters. Now, whether that's used or not used, I don't know. I'm not there all of the time. I will say I have seen some presence. I know that there have been quite a few arrests for trespassing. The problem is, or the issue is, they do get arrested and they go before the judge, and the judge lets them out. And then they go right back. So yeah, they are breaking in. This past Friday, they didn't break in. We have on camera, and we know who the individual is. He's been arrested in the past. We do have drug dealers that we the police are providing surveillance, and we have arrested. Here's a good example. Two examples. There are individuals that we have known about drug dealers, and we've reported to the police. One case took us in excess of a year and a half to arrest that person, and then it takes a long time to get them evicted. We have 162 evictions currently for people not paying their rent, a variety of infractions. So we have, let's say, cracked down. We are doing what we can. Now, when they break in, and again, on this Friday, the person didn't break in. He literally went down and removed the equipment so that door was going to be wide open, essentially, allegedly, because he is a drug dealer. So his customers would be able to come in without buzzing the door, or we have police surveillance. We do work well with police department. I got to say, Captain Damaris The sector leader, he's available. I was down there Sunday. There were drug addicts shooting up right outside. This was 9 o'clock in the morning. It's very sad, but there's I don't know, hundreds of people crossing in and out of that property from South Common going to Jay's. So it's, I think Council has mentioned it was ground zero. Well, yes. And last thing, I'll stop rambling here. The Lowell Housing Authority doesn't have any ability to arrest people. I know, there's a notion that, we got to hire security. We have hired security in the past, and the security calls the police. We need, a police presence there, and if that's where all the problems are, because it seems that, residents are letting these people in, and I was in 227 227 Gorham Street that was broken into, place where, Monday, we don't have custodians on the weekend, so that's why they break in, and they do. They go to the bathroom in there, and the place is not somewhere where our residents should have to tolerate. So we're shifting, so I'll stop here, because I could go on and
I
on.
just
Well, I'm
wanted
going to
to say-
defer to Dennis, and then I have a question.
I just want to let people, if they're residents or not, we have not ignored this at all whatsoever. It's a constant battle. The population has grown multifold. They're not going away. That seems to be the center, and we need help. And we've told the council we need help. We need a lot more help, because when they break in, they've broken 6 steel doors to get in. So we have all that data, all the arrests, all of the breakage, et cetera. So we're happy to provide a report to the council. But by the same token, if that video is on Facebook and people are concerned, upset, we have to address it, and we are doing that, of course, at a time where, and by the way, there might be this notion that the housing authority is this independent authority that has, millions of dollars. We don't. We don't at all whatsoever. We subsidize housing. We get some money from the federal and state government, and the rest comes from income, which is, it's minimal, right?
Yeah. I just wanted to say real quick, I know Dennis is going to speak, but I saw yesterday Dave Prestopino, who has brought so much attention to this. He's going through a tough time. They're taking his mother, Gail, off of hospice, and so I just want to send out my thoughts and prayers to that family for what they're going through.
Okay, yeah, the issue that Rodney has just brought up is a issue right across the United States. It's not just here in Lowell. And we've been trying to examine some of the issues that are involved with what he's describing as a public order issue. I mean, there's an issue of public order here. And that was addressed by a professor many years ago, George Kelling, when he wrote the book Broken Windows. But there's truth to it. What happens if we do not secure, the town or the city or whatever community does not secure those areas so that law-abiding people can transverse and go there and live there and do so without fear, that section of the town will eventually deteriorate, and it will become crime-ridden, and you'll lose control of it. And that's what's going on in places like Washington, D.C., as well as Chicago. Now, what do you do about it? And I think Representative Elliott has a challenge in his hands, because there's a lot of things that that the town is precluded from doing in those situations. So, for example, it comes to arrests. Arrest is the first alternative. The arrests don't do any good if it's a revolving door at the courthouse. If the judges are subscribing to the chaos theory of reality, where anybody can live however they want, and they don't recognize that there are standards that people have to operate with, and they're responsible for a lot of what's going on, which is what the case was with George Soros. The second thing about Massachusetts unique is with the mentally ill is that Massachusetts is one of the few states that does not go along with involuntary treatment. And I think it's a major issue. And that doesn't mean that you put everybody, incarcerate them, but in Massachusetts, the state officials will not, state mental health officials will not hospitalize persons without their full consent. And the only way that people who are having mental illness issues do get that is usually through an arrest with a commitment to Bridgewater State Hospital, and they pass through the correctional system. Right now, the correctional system, a large percentage of the people in the correctional system are actually there for mental health issues, or they're related to mental health. So those are the things. And the other thing is the alternatives to housing. If you provide alternatives, which I think Lowell, like most places, does have the alternatives for homeless people. If they choose not to take those, then the responsibility shifts over to them as far as we're concerned. But those are some of the issues that we're seeing. Big issues need to be addressed, absolutely.
So, Rodney, it's my impression that the leadership on Beacon Hill is philosophically or ideologically incapable of fixing the homeless issue. I mean, that may be a little harsh, but that's what comes across to me. I've lived here 30 years. I've been involved in homelessness for maybe 25 of those years, maybe 20. But we never seem to make progress.
And there's a question from the audience, while you're pondering what Cliff's talking about, is merit rating system. How does the merit rating system work in Massachusetts with regard to speeding tickets? Who makes that decision? Is there somebody down at the registry to make the decision? How long is it stuck on your license? And what's it actually cost you?
Well, I can tell you that whenever you are cited, and particularly if you're found responsible in the court forwards an abstract to the Massachusetts State Insurance Commission, and I think that's where the rating board is it's in the Insurance Commission.
Okay.
And the Insurance Commission reviews the information, and then they make an assessment on either per accident or per violation how much you have to pay, and I don't know what the timeline is. I would estimate probably maybe 5 years you're stuck with a surcharge on the violation. But here's the thing, John. This is what they're finding out now, particularly among certain portions of the population. Nobody pays tickets. Nobody's registered. Nobody's licensed. So it only works for certain people. All right. So if you have a society which a large portion of it is under the radar, they're not documented people. None of this means anything. They just ignore it, and you've got lawlessness.
That's like show up in court, they go like, okay,
They
good
don't
luck
even
with that.
exist.
This is off the internet. How much is 3-point surcharge in Massachusetts?
I don't know what that means. I'm sorry.
Neither do I, but it's out there. It's $1,000. If you get 3 points on your license, it's $1,000 more in your insurance.
For a moving violation or something of that nature, maybe?
Don't know. It's
So,
all
I think-
insurance jargon, which I do not understand.
I think it starts at 99 is like your best score, then 0, and then if you get a 3-point charge, it goes to 3. It's a number system, I believe. But Dennis, are you saying it's better to not be licensed, not be insured, or registered almost?
That seems to be the way we're going. It seems to be the way we're going.
Honestly, I mean, it makes sense. I was in a, I had to go to the hospital for a procedure. My family was on vacation. I took a lift, right? The lift got into a car accident crossing 11th
Well, you do have the luck of the Irish, Eileen. I'll tell you
I
that.
definitely do. So it was like pinned on like my side. It's essentially what made me need like a new refusion. And so it turned out that the driver who hit the car was not insured. The Uber driver somehow was not insured. And it went back to my insurance. So I can understand that.
Yeah, well, there's 2 tiers. We're developing into a 2-tiered society. One that is documented and one that's not documented. And as the undocumented society gets larger, and people are learning from watching this. They're learning how responsible, how reactive the system is. They're seeing that people aren't being held account. So what's happened is the people here who have the money or who are in the business, the insurance companies, they're going to go to you because they know that they can leverage you to pay. Why would they waste their time with somebody who's not going to do that?
Yeah.
That's the inequity that comes out of a society in which you recognize a certain percentage of people as undocumented.
So people who do the right thing are
No good
essentially
deed goes
punished,
unpunished.
right?
That's a very, very clear example of that.
Wow.
Rodney, back to my question. The leadership on Beacon Hill, I don't think they're philosophically or ideologically capable of fixing homelessness. Am I being unfair?
Yeah, I think you're being unfair because homelessness is not specifically inherent to the state of Massachusetts. If you look across this nation, it has been, perhaps it's getting worse for a variety of reasons. Where mental health is clearly on the rise. We saw that after COVID, and not blaming COVID, but mental health was always an issue. You know, back in the, let's say the late 90s, the state decided to close all the institutions, including the one right here in Lowell, Sullivan Mental Health Center.
Yeah.
And with, maybe with they were being run pretty poorly, so maybe there was merit to closing those, and they went to sort of a privately based mental health system. To me, that hasn't worked. I also believe that let's say the advent, if that's the right word, this fentanyl that's replacing heroin, that to some degree might be replacing cocaine. There's a drug problem in this country, and drug trafficking has escalated, and this fentanyl that is so cheap and deadly is all over the streets, and the police, that's where we need to focus, in my opinion, more resources. If there's less drugs, less access. And I have to tell you, as I mentioned, on Sunday, I sat and at the Lowell Housing Authority, and my observation were a lot of people crisscrossing, a lot of people going in and out of these apartment buildings, and and I know the police know about it. We meet with, Housing Authority meets with the Lowell Police Department regularly. There's drug dealing going on there, and they know about it. We've just recently, in one of the buildings, a woman was evicted, but it took years. So, long story short, kind of going back to the Major's point, if it's a revolving door, and I understand the judge's point, what do you want us to do with them? I think Sheriff Katusian started a program where if you're sent to prison, then there's a mental health treatment for they're not petty crimes, they're low level crimes, and complete a program. Involuntary treatment, I know that was attempted in the past. These people on the streets, Lowell has done a great job with a co-op team, trying to get them into shelter, trying to get them services, and they don't want them. So at some point, it's a balance. Should there be some process where those that need it, they're troubled, and I have to tell you, Sunday morning my heart broke. There were 3 or 4 young ladies, not just young ladies, but they were shooting up, and those are individuals that perhaps need some treatment, can't get it, or won't get it, and I don't know a lot about involuntary treatment, but even if it's for 72 hours, I know there's arguments on both sides. But, again, it's drugs. The process for mental health, it's evolving, but it's costly, right? There are some programs that we have here run by VinFen and other organizations that are successful. They don't institutionalize them for months and months and months. I will say about a year ago, I visited Tewksbury State Hospital. I know the council wants more services and people, Tewksbury State has land. I don't believe that's going to happen. That's to answer your question on the administration.
How about the 600 cells the sheriff has out in Barica that are empty?
I'm not aware of those, but that, if there are,
The sheriff has he's got the resources to get somebody who's hooked on heroin off of heroin, because he has inmates that have those problems.
right. No, without a doubt. I mean,
We should certainly tap his shoulder and say, hey, buddy, can you help us out? Because the room for 600, that's plenty.
yeah, I only kind of focus on this fentanyl because it's so highly addictive, and once you try it, you get it. It's almost, it's like a 2-year process as far as I know to get off it. And I don't know, the major probably knows more about this than I do.
Well, to your point, Rodney, the one evil feeds the other. If you have, as drug addiction increases, so does the homelessness and mental illness as well. It all leads to the other. So if you can stop it at one spot, you should be able to reduce it at the others. But it's a challenge. We're all facing it, and it's not going to go away.
No, so to answer your question, Cliff, back to you. I don't think that they are incapable. We have dedicated significant resources to it. We'll continue to. It's a very complicated problem. But back to the Housing Authority, we are on it. Maybe these videos don't reflect it. And no disrespect to Mr. Prespatino, but that was we're aware of it. We're not ignoring it, and we need to get better at it. So, that Monday morning, the place I went there Friday, and it could use a cleaning. So, if residents would stop letting, and the third thing that they do is, the individuals trying to access that don't belong there, that are trespassing, they'll wait and they'll follow elderly people in. And, the elderly people can't fight off homeless
I'm
people.
living in the railroads now.
What's that?
I'm a lot older than you are. And when I was young, we didn't have this big homeless problem. Yeah, we had hobos who rode the rails. But it wasn't this huge homeless problem we have now.
Well, I think I'm sure you'll find a correlation between, and it's not specifically just drug use. There are some other societal issues, but we get a major drug problem, and that's just, for a lot of folks, the beginning of the end, right?
There is a fact
sad
that
story, yeah.
we have a homeless problem. A housing problem in Massachusetts.
Well, again, there's a housing problem across the nation, right? I mean, there's...
Yeah, but we could take some action. Back when I was young, Bill Levitt took a big piece of land and built a lot of very inexpensive houses.
Well, I think if
And
you see the approach
to
that...
house 100,000 people.
And sometimes that worked and sometimes it didn't work. Look at the housing that we converted over at Julian Steel. It was a terrible housing project. It was rampant with drug dealers and prostitution, and you don't want to raise a family there. So we convert.
Were they buying them or renting them?
It was public housing. Julian Steel.
Public housing is a disaster.
So we did, there's an example, it was a pilot program, and there was quite a bit of opposition to it, but I was on the city council, I voted for it. We're about to move into the 5th phase of that, to finally complete it 20 years later, and, converting it to home ownership, and that works. Now, can you do that everywhere? No, but to answer your question, the governor has proposed, and there was, DCAM has advertised, I think it's 20 parcels of property that the state owns to convert to housing. Quite frankly, right down the street, Gorham Street, the old Superior Courthouse was one of those surplus pieces of property.
Will you read this one?
John, stop with the electronic ticketing. Not everybody is in favor of it. Our cars today are meant to drive I'm sorry, to drive in a high rate of speed. I agree with you, Dennis. Let the police do their jobs, not the electronics. And then it says, oh, was this your reply? Okay. So, do you want me to read what you said? Cops are not ticketing. Most are driving too fast for electronics. Okay.
Electronic ticketing is an excellent deterrent. And the last text, I disagree with you. You should let my text be seen on TV so Rodney can hear the other side.
Well, I mean, I agree. I've had a Mazda, and it's actually difficult to go slow in the speed limit on it. Like, it obviously takes, you basically have to take your whole foot off of the pedal, and it's hard to navigate.
Well, Eileen, I'll see if Dennis will agree with me. I don't know that he's going to. If they increase the speed limit to 75, how fast will cars go?
They'll always go 10 to 15 miles faster than what the limit is.
Not historic experience. In the 1950s, they ran experiments where they raised the speed limit and the average speed on the street dropped.
So you guys have to say goodbye because we're out of time.
All right.
Okay, goodbye, everybody. Thank
They
you.
would have been better, but a big portion of the show got eaten up by other people. Goodbye, everyone. I'll see you next Friday. Thank you.
Well, we can stay on YouTube. You don't have to sign off now.
Oh, we
We're
better.
just-
No, we gotta go.
Hey, have a good weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday. Thanks for watching.
That was good.